Good day, this is CJMiller with the Spiritual Artist Podcast. I'm here in my studio and I'm getting ready for a very exciting guest. Have you ever wanted a creative project that you could do with a group of friends, something that brings you together, that you could do at the same time, something that's rather easy to learn that gives you incredible results? Well, stay tuned. Melanie Brannan, my assistant, she's a good friend of mine. She is going to show us how to make these watercolor vignettes on paper. It's easy, good cleanup, fast and fun, but most importantly, it gives you time to sit around with your art community and share. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Spiritual Artist Podcast. This is Chris Miller. I invite you to join me as I interview artists from a variety of disciplines. We'll share powerful stories and lessons learned while making their art.
Here we are with Melanie Brannan. She's a good friend of mine. She has assisted me on every spiritual artist retreat.
I have.
Yeah. And how's that been for you?
They're all fabulous. And the last one in Santa Fe was like over the top.
Ooh. All right, so we are going to show you a technique.
Yes, we are.
Okay, so here I am with Melanie Brannan. Melanie has assisted me on every single one of my retreats. She's such a good friend. We kind of have a joke that she's my art wife.
I am. He's my art husband.
And so she and I work as a great team, and I wanted to bring her in because the other day when we were on the retreat, she starts doing this little activity.
It's just a doodle. It's a doodle.
She calls it a doodle. I think it's beautiful. And I think the whole class, everybody at the retreat was like, wow, how did you do that?
And they started coming over and doing it with me.
Yes.
It was addictive.
It was addictive. So she's going to show you what we're doing, and we're going to give you a supply list, and then we're going to show you and walk you through how you can make these, what would you call them?
Doodles.
Doodles.
Watercolor doodles.
Watercolor doodles. All right, so Mel, can you show what? And wait, I want to caution.
What?
I want to caution the listeners that you've been painting for many years, but you can get pretty good results. Now these are incredible.
You can get really good results.
So let's see these.
Okay, so these are the early before I doodle on them. So I just put down some water. I take my watercolors, and then I just start putting the colors down, and then watching where the paint goes.
Right.
And because I do abstract landscapes, I'm really good at making the lines kind of go where I want them to go, but I'll let the paint lead the way. I always let the paint lead the way, much easier in life.
So we're going to walk through step by step because Melanie likes to hide over these tricks. But she has many tricks to help you walk through this. In fact, I went there, last Saturday and sat in the studio and did some of these myself. And I want to show you that my first attempts were okay. They were okay, but they kept getting better. And so
yeah, his first ones are here, and he just started blotting just putting it down and blotting the paint, and then he started figuring out how to lead the paint with your paintbrush so it turns into a nice little landscape. But you don't have to do landscapes. I do landscapes.
It's interesting. You're right. It is about learning where to lead
the paint.
So you use water as your base,
yes.
And then when you mix that watercolor in, it spreads
just
out.
Flows.
It does the work for you.
I think it does. That's a good way to put it, actually.
So here's a couple things you need as supplies, and then we'll get into this step by step. Do you want to tell them, use yours or mine? And
water, because we're using watercolor.
All right.
A watercolor brush, like an inch. Watercolor brush because it's very soft and very flexible. You don't want the ones that are real bristly. And then just a regular paintbrush.
What would you call a point?
In
different sizes, right?
Different sizes.
And
then I use these core watercolors, which are by Golden, and this just goes on top of this, so I have my watercolors wherever I want to go.
So I want to point out that she uses these neat tubes, and I just ordered this new box for myself of a different brand on Amazon, and there's there's benefits, right, to using the tubes, but you can also just go and use the old-fashioned, just a little, when you were in grade school, right?
These work fine too, because when I teach my kids, this is what I use for my kids, and it really works just fine to start off very inexpensively.
Right. And one of the things I discovered when I was painting with her on Saturday that I really liked is I love having white as an option.
Which I didn't. I've never used white, so he taught me something.
See, we're always teaching each other things.
I know. That's the cool thing about community. Did you say that?
Yeah, that's exactly why this is so neat. You bring people together. In fact, Melanie and I are having some people over to my house on Saturday night, and we're going to show you at the end of this video pictures of that experience. It hasn't even happened yet. They're bringing snacks and food. We're going to sit at a big table, and we're going to do this activity together because I believe community is the most important thing right now.
And the funny thing is, though, I didn't know that people really wanted to do it, and I go, whatever, we can do whatever you want. And I just thought it would be like 1 or 2 people, but then like 12 people are coming.
Yeah, I think 13 actually. It keeps going
up. No, really?
Yeah, I have to extend my table, but
you would have known we're so much fun.
So we have type of paper, and Melanie, what kind of paper is the best?
I like the hot press, which is the smooth watercolor paper, because I go back in with micron pens or charcoal pencils or pastel pencils to put more detail in it. So that's why I like the hot press, which means smooth. Cold press has the bumps in it.
So explain that. This is a great way to remember that.
Cold press is like when you have goosebumps on you. So it's bumpy. Hot press is smooth.
You know, I told that to a friend of ours who's been painting for years, and she's, I never heard that. But it's a great way to remember.
I made that up myself.
Since she's creative. So it's about cold. Cold gives you bumps. But
Yeah.
in this case, Melanie likes smooth. That doesn't mean you can't use something with bumps.
Yeah, I haven't tried it, so it may work.
Now, I want to point out these pens. Could you repeat the name of them again?
Micron, Micron, and they just Amazon, and they're just like drawing pens, like the old pictographs for those.
But very small points.
Very small points, yeah.
So I ordered this set. It was a little more expensive, but you can see it's going to be for Saturday, and I have a whole bunch of choices, and they have sizes.
They do have sizes.
I
don't
don't
pay
know.
attention.
I don't know what it means.
Yeah, it's
but
numbers.
they're numbers, but you can play with that, and that's how you draw on the edge of the contour of the shape.
Yeah. And then you can also use charcoal pencils, which I use a lot, and then the pastel pencils. So it's just, and it's whatever you want to play with, whatever your DNA says. Who says that?
Yeah, so whatever your creative DNA is. So Melanie also does something that I didn't used to do, is she puts a piece of paper, a paper towel, down next to her water. Why do you do that?
So I can dab it. I can take off as much water as I want to, because part of painting is realizing how much fluid, how much water, how much acrylic or watercolor you have on your brush. I'm always testing.
So I've never done that, but she actually wipes it off as she goes, and it's a neat practice, right?
It is. I think so. It works for me.
Yeah.
But we're all different.
So you need paper, watercolor, and or watercolor, and
micron pens, and maybe a charcoal pencil. Maybe even a white charcoal pencil. It's whatever you have in your house. A number 2 pencil would work okay too. So just whatever you have in your house. That's the beauty of this process.
And the challenge with the charcoal is you have to watch you don't smudge it. I'm left-handed, and I tend to have my hand run and smudge things. And Melanie showed me you can spray a matte fixative.
A fixative on it, but I also just use hairspray, but don't tell anybody I said that. I think hairspray works better than this fancy fixative I bought.
Okay, so you know what I was thinking, since we have the camera lined up, why don't you just do one,
Ready?
and then we can refilm up close so you guys can
Okay.
see exactly what she's doing.
Inch brush, right? Get a little bit of water on it. I dab it, and then I make it flow so it's a very, I'm doing this upside down. I can paint upside down.
Yes, you can.
Okay. It's very irregular edge, okay? So then I'm gonna take, watercolor. I'm gonna dab it and just watch where it leads.
And so it just saturates out in the water. It's using the water to move it.
Right, and so it's exactly right. So now I wash my brush out. Now I want to go with some greens. This is where I'm going to start doing the watercolor. I mean the landscape lines.
Okay.
I always like having weight at the bottom of my paintings.
So when she says weight, she means a darker color.
Of the darker value, yeah.
And Payne's Gray is one of your favorites?
I love Payne's Gray.
I love Payne's Gray too.
I love Payne's
That's why I
Gray
bought this
black.
bigger set, because it had Payne's Gray in it.
Yeah. And then I can just go back in and dab more colors in it.
What color's that?
That's a dahlia yellow.
Oh, that's the one we always have trouble pronouncing. Dariad or Dariad?
Yeah. It's a
So
yellow.
what she's doing is she's doing horizontal.
Horizontal-ish lines. So then when this dries, I will come back in and put more details in it with my micron pens or charcoal pencil. So I want a little bit of more weight up at the top. So I'll just make it a little bit darker up there. See how I'm taking the paint off my brush? Because sometimes I want more paint. Sometimes, look at that tree forming right there. Do you see it?
Yeah.
How cool. So I can accentuate that by just pulling it up a little bit. Oh, this is so much fun.
It is
So
fun.
much fun.
So one of the things I want to give you a couple of the guidelines here. When you use this wide brush and you're putting that water on, you don't want to make a perfect square or rectangle. That would be boring.
You want it very irregular.
The messier, almost the better.
Yes. Yeah.
But you do want the water all within bounds, and so you want it to fill the space. You don't want a white gap in there either, like an unwet area.
Right. And then you'll play with exactly how much water do you want on there. Sometimes whenever the people started doing it with me in Santa Fe, they would put too much water on it, and so they practiced, and then they figured out exactly how much water to put on here. And then if you get too much puddling going on, you can just take the corner of your napkin and absorb some of this.
She's using the napkin right on the edge to suck up some of the water.
To suck up some of the water. There.
And the funny thing is, sometimes you look at it and there's like right now, there's a mess. It looks messy, right? But that's what's so beautiful about it. Watercolor gives you these beautiful striations. That's the word, striation. And it's it's almost, yeah, it is.
And a little bit of black up at the top because I want weight up at the top of this one. It's so much fun. It's very mesmerizing. I had an editor of a magazine come over and interview me yesterday, and I did this with her, and she was like fascinated by it. And she took all the examples with her, which I thought was really great.
It is. I'm telling you.
She goes, I'm going to start doing this at home myself because it's all, yeah. And she's not a painter. She absolutely loved it. She learned a lot too.
So the thing is, once you get this down, you have to let it dry before you come back with your charcoal or your micron pen.
Right, with all the little details.
And we'll talk about that in just a minute. Do you want to go ahead and do a second?
Do another one?
Yeah, let's do another one. And I'm going to show you right here what her work looks like. I'm going to hold up, and so she'll see a picture.
Okay. Keep this brush clean because you want to put clean water down, right? So I'm going to put another little wiggly edge down. I'm watching, see how I'm kind of like moving around because I'm moving around in the light so I can see the reflection of exactly where the water is. What color should we go now? Ooh, Quin Magenta, my favorite.
I like this one with a lot of orange in it too, because you know I love orange.
So
orange is my color, right?
It is. So okay, this one we'll do Quin Magentas down at the bottom.
Oh yeah.
It just explodes. Wash my brush out. Put some oranges in it.
Now Melanie does make it look easy, but it actually is kind of easy.
It is. The first few will be, for the beginners, will be a little challenging, but watch what's happening and you'll learn how to handle this paint. Because see the yellow with the orange?
Oh, it's gorgeous.
And how, like, when the colors react to it together, some colors will push other colors away, like oil and vinegar.
And see, it took me a while. On Saturday, I did a whole sheet before I started recognizing, I can control where by hitting the brush in a certain direction, I can control where the color's moving into the next.
Right, exactly. Right. And then what he taught me was when you add a little bit of white to it.
Something right?
Dude, I think right there. And the white is going to act like, that's a dirty white, so it's not working quite as well. The white is going to push the paint away and form some gorgeous clouds.
White makes great clouds, so if you put a blue base down and then you put this white,
yeah.
You could maybe squeeze some white out.
Yeah, I can do that.
It moves it out, and it looks like puffy clouds. And because of the natural way that watercolor works, it's very organic. It's not like you have to work hard to make it look like a cloud.
That's the beauty of this process is because it is organic, and everything I paint is organic. Of course, titanium white, I found it.
Yes.
You have to work kind of quickly before the paint dries. And you taught me something else.
Uh-oh. What?
You spritzed it, or you?
Oh yeah,
You
yeah. You
wet
can
it.
wet it. You know, a bottle of water. I show here. Here's one. Just so you know, something like this. Always have this in your studio. A nice little bottle of water that you can mist with.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's see.
Yeah.
The white is just gorgeous.
Because the white, it just pushes the color away.
And I've never used the white. There it is in my box of colors, and I've never messed with it. It's so pretty. Ooh la la.
All right, so what a great way. And then let's. I wish one of these was dry. Well, you can do contour
These are dry.
works. Yeah.
These are dry.
So
here.
talk us through, and I'm going to explain to them what you're doing. I don't know if I can hold this up. So this is where we're at. Okay. Color moves. And what she's going to do now is she's going to take one of her micron pens, and she's going to do. I love this because she's used this term for a long time for me, and I never knew what you were talking about. You know what I say? I'm a contour artist, and I was kind of like, what? And then I realized with this project what you mean.
It's fun where the colors separate. Where you're going to put a contour line where the yellow meets the Quin magenta, or where the Payne's gray meets the blue. Contour line.
So
most of my paintings are built by following the paint and where the contour lines are.
Yeah, and I had no idea.
Really?
No, I didn't until Saturday. So what's interesting though is what she's saying is she's taking that black marker and she's making the edge stronger. And when she does it, of course, she's very good at this, but she almost imitates like foliage or grasses or tree line, a tree line with that. So.
Can we do it?
Yeah, can you do one of these? Well, we can turn around here.
Can we turn it around?
Because we're going to show you this up close as well.
Okay, so let's start, because this one already has the trees forming. So I'm going to do a contour line right where the black is meeting the lighter grays and greens.
Do you want me to? Maybe I should take off the camera and I'm going to hold it down.
You want
okay?
to?
Yeah.
See you in a minute.
Okay, so here we are. Look at these beautiful edges that Melanie has created on this painting. And that's what's so beautiful about using that water down first and then letting the ink hit to the edge. And now, look, Melanie, what are you doing there?
Okay, so I am following where the dark edge meets the light edge. And so I'm making contour lines. You can see where the dark gray is kind of meeting the Nicolazo gold or the green. And then I'm going to start putting these little bitty trees on that contour line. So it's going to give you the feeling of a whole lot of depth going on. Larger trees in the foreground, smaller trees as you go back. But see, I've got a couple of contour lines there, and then I'm adding some pine trees.
It's beautiful. And that's what I mean. I just realized what you meant when you were talking about contour.
And now I'm doing the next one. Yeah, where the Quin magenta and the green gold meet, I'm putting a line there for definition. And it's all of a sudden going to bring a very soft watercolor into focus and what you want the viewer to focus on.
Oh, so it like gives it a sharp edge to grab your eye.
Exactly. See, zooming in there, and you can see all of my little contour lines.
And it's the contrast between the softness of the watercolor, which you do so well, and then those lines.
And then there's one, it's like minimal contour lines. And then I love the little squigglies as the border. And there I'm using the micron pen.
Yeah,
and
it's amazing.
This one on the edge, I'm using the black charcoal pencil, which gives you a beautiful soft line. And then I'm even smudging it to give my trees a really nice little shadow.
Now, I always have trouble with that because I blur my colors a little bit. And you said if you spray it with hairspray?
You can use a fixative, but I also just use a real inexpensive hairspray because there's not a lot of charcoal on these. And on that one, you can really see what I was talking about earlier about the weight at the bottom. And I like the weight at the top on some of these too. See that the second one I have weight, and you always break your rules once you set them, but yeah, I love the weight on some of these.
I love your use of reds,
Thank you. There's so much you can do with this simple little process and keep your color palette very minimalistic. There's just a few colors on each of these. Like that one is Quin magenta, orange and yellow. The one next to it is Payne's gray, yellow, and blue. I mean, just keep it as simple as you can.
That's great.
Yeah,
See,
look at
there
that.
you're almost like, yeah, look what you're finding in there that I almost didn't even see.
And when I teach my kids, I teach them this process, not necessarily a landscape, but I'm teaching them to see like an artist, where you have, as an artist, you can see the color variations. And once my kids get this figured out, they just explode and can find all kind of shapes in there. I mean, they start finding jellyfish and sharks, but it really teaches you how to see subtleties in color shifts.
I love it. And you can use this even in an abstract, learning to see the color breaks and
Absolutely.
emphasis.
You could take that with what you do in your paintings, because you're always like blocking. It's the same process, only it's making it into a landscape instead of an abstract. But Chris Miller could turn that into one of his abstracts very easily.
I love it. Yeah.
Mesmerizing too, very hypnotic.
Now we talked about edging these out, and you can tear them and stuff.
I do. I usually have a straight edge. I have a triangles that I use, or you could use a metal ruler. Some people like the straight edges where it's cut. I like the deckled edge of a torn piece. And see, this one I am outlining with the charcoal and then blending it. See, I love those soft edges. It's going to be fun to see what the people do with this tomorrow night.
It is.
At our little watercolor soiree.
And I'm going to put photos at the end of that event, so that'll be really cool.
Good.
Okay, so here's you're going to do the straight
There's
edge.
a triangle, and I think, yeah, hold it down, and then you tear it, and it just gives you this gorgeous edge. Hold it down tight. Voila. See how pretty that is?
It's beautiful.
And there's 3 colors. Let's see, Payne's gray, red, orange, and yellow in that one. Such a simple palette. And you can see on each one of these that I do on my page, I use a different palette. I don't, because you need to explore what all of these things are capable, what all these colors are capable of.
It's beautiful.
Aw, you're the nicest. I know. Then you sign it. Ooh, who's that one going to go to?
So, I like it. So we're gonna start here, right? Yeah. So pretty cool, right? And just the most beautiful little pieces of work. And I will tell you, like I said, Melanie's been doing this a while, but it doesn't take that long to develop. I wish I had the piece that's in the other room that I love. I did on Saturday. Don't think that everyone has to be beautiful.
No, and I do landscapes.
Right.
Maybe you do florals. Maybe.
And I did do a floral on a Saturday. I did flowers in it.
You do you. I do me.
Right.
But I would paint 4 or a whole page, let it dry, and then come back and start doing the details.
Right.
Even if you have a hair dryer, it'll make the dry time go
Even
much
better.
quicker. Yeah.
Wow.
But that's it.
So last thing, I just want to remind you what's really important up front is that first step when you wet the paper. See how she let that brush kind of make an irregular shape? That's cool. Don't make it a perfect rectangle.
Otherwise, you'd be on a computer making it all like PowerPoints.
Right. This is each and every one is uniquely demonstrating a touch of a human, and that's what makes it so beautiful.
Exactly.
Yeah. These are great. So, listeners, I hope you enjoyed this little experience with Mel. Like I said, her and I have a great time on art retreats, and she and I did something new this time in Santa Fe. We did what we call dueling a semic.
We did.
Where 2 people work on the same painting at one time.
That was so much fun.
It was. And what happens is when you work with someone else, you learn a lot about yourself.
You do. You learn about yourself, and you also learn how they approach the same painting.
Right.
And what tools do they use, and what colors are they drawn to, and what brush strokes, and what type of pressure. with the brush stroke.
And that's why this is a way to do that as well. By sitting in a group of people and you're working on this together, it's the same thing. You can learn tips and tricks. And I never really realized how wonderful Payne's gray is. And you realized about titanium white.
With the watercolor, yeah.
And you can also the wonderful thing also I want to share is with the tubes you can pre-mix. Like you can actually mix two colors together on your palette before you even hit it onto the
exactly. Double load your brush up, yeah.
Yeah. So if you decide that you want something in between two of your colors, you don't have to have a big set for this. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You can do this alone. So right now, what I'd like to tell you to do, I want to thank you for listening to this interview. I want you to plan a artist play date. It doesn't matter if you're just with one other friend or if with a group of friends. Do it. And if you want to do it alone, do it alone. Because there's nothing wrong with that either. Because it is meditative.
It is very meditative.
But it's also wonderful to do this with people. And I think the more and more I send out my message, I'm realizing, and even coming back from the retreat, because I kind of got a little depressed when I got back.
Oh yeah, you're around 14 people, and then all of a sudden you're by yourself, and you're the silence.
The silence. It was hard. I came home, I had 14 people, we're all working together, there's this great connection, and then we come home and I'm sitting in my house. So that's what I think, especially in these times, it's a rough world. We're getting flooded with social media and news that's negative, or at least positioned as negative.
Right.
This is a way to share the positive.
So what did you call it yesterday? Fight, flight, or
flock.
Oh,
which good point.
That's what this is. You're bringing your flock. You're gathering your people, and bringing your flock in to hang around with.
Right. I was listening to a podcast, and they said that there's actually three. We always talk about fight or flight, but there's actually, when things are bad, when things seem bad, there's what's called flocking. And that's where you come together with people of the like mind, and you share ideas, and just community. So
it's very important. Community is.
Well, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for liking my little doodles. I had no idea.
She calls it so funny. She says little doodles, and they're gorgeous.
Doodles.
They're gorgeous. So anyway, all right. Well, thank you for following the Spiritual Artist Podcast. Go up there and bookmark this channel. There'll be more of these. I've decided this is a great way to share ideas, and Melanie will be back, I'm sure, with other wonderful ideas.
And if you do a group, send us pictures.
Yes.
We would love to see.
Send me pictures. Post comments, what the experience was like in the subject line here under the video. Share with me. We'd love it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Thank you.
So keep listening to the Spiritual Artist Podcast. Go out there and be a spiritual artist. Thanks. Thanks again for listening to the Spiritual Artist Podcast. Whether you're watching this show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, or iHeartRadio, make sure you choose the subscribe button so that you will receive updates when new segments are released. Most importantly, be still, listen, and know that you are a spiritual artist.